Immigration has always been a hot button issue in the US elections, but in 2024, it is more critical. With debates about illegal crossings, visa policies, and the impact on economy, voters are being asked to consider their stance very carefully. Now, in this explainer video, we'll break down the key numbers, discuss the burden versus benefit of a broken immigration system, and show how both parties are using immigration to woo voters. First, let's look at the numbers. How many undocumented immigrants are currently in the US? And how have border crossing changed between both the administrations? Under President Trump in 2019, there were about 977,000 border crossings, a very significant number. But Trump's Remain in Mexico policy and stricter asylum policies aim to reduce these numbers. His administration also emphasized on the construction of the border wall. Now, under Biden administration, he faced significant challenge. In 2021, the numbers of crossing and again illegal crossing surged to 1.7 million, the highest on the record. Critics argue that Biden's rollback of Trump-era policies like Title 42 and a more lenient approach contributed to this increase. So why does this massive influx matter to voters? Now let's break it down in terms of impact. Does a broken immigration system put burden on American citizens? Now, for many Americans, illegal immigration represents a potential strain on social services and public safety. But is that fear really justified? Some studies show that undocumented immigrants often use services like Medicaid, Medicare, and public education, which can burden state budgets. For example, states like California spend billions annually on healthcare for the documented population. While there is no consensus, some political campaigns also highlight the immigrant crime rates. The studies suggest that crime rates among undocumented immigrants are often lower than the native-born citizens. So that does not stop immigration opponents from raising the concern. There's also impact on the labor. Now, the low-wage workers often compete with undocumented immigrants for jobs, especially in sectors like construction and agriculture, and this competition can push wages down for American citizens. But it's not all about the burden. The undocumented immigrants also make major contribution that rarely gets talked about. So let's dive into the economic contribution of immigrants in the US. Despite the concerns about immigrants in America, whether documented or not, they play a huge role in America's economic engine. Immigrants, particularly in agriculture, construction, and service sectors, fill jobs that many Americans do not want. Without their labor, and industries like agriculture and hospitality could face severe shortages. It is estimated that undocumented immigrants contribute billions, yes, billions in state and local taxes each year, even though they're not eligible for most government benefits. Now, according to some studies, they contribute around $11 billion annually in taxes, which obviously helps fund a lot of public services. Also, immigrants are twice as likely to start businesses as compared to a US-born citizen, contributing significantly to innovation and job creation in sectors like tech and retail. So with both challenges and benefits in mind, where do the candidates stand on immigration policies, particularly for high-skilled immigrants from countries like India? Now, as we all know that Indian immigrants are one of the fastest growing immigrant groups in the US, particularly in technology, healthcare, and even politics. So how will Trump and Harris impact visa statuses? Trump's administration was marked by a more restrictive approach to immigration, including H-1B visas. His policies aim to reduce the number of these visas in favor of American workers, though he did propose giving green cards to international students after they graduated, so as to retain the talent here in the US. And this could be a positive sign for high-skilled Indian workers. As a daughter of Indian immigrant, Harris has shown more openness towards immigration reform. Her policies would likely aim to reduce the green card backlog, a very critical issue for Indian immigrants. And the Harris-Walz ticket is more likely to push for a comprehensive immigration reform that addresses both high-skilled visa holders as well as the dreamers. Both candidates have different approaches, but how are they framing immigration to win the voters? So let's talk about the messaging in the campaign. As we all know, that immigration is a divisive issue among voters of both the parties and their bases. Trump is focusing on border security, promising to finish the wall and curtail illegal immigration. His message resonates strongly with rural and suburban voters who feel threatened by the economic and social competition. Harris, on the other hand, speaks to the need for a more human immigration reform, targeting progressive and minority voters, especially the Hispanic voters. She balances a tough stance on border security with promise of pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants and making reforms to the legal immigration system. In the end, immigration is a critical issue that reflects the values of America. Will voters prioritize border security or compassion for immigrants? This election might give us an answer to that. To highlight the plight of Indian visa holders who've been living in the US in limbo for such a long time, we spoke exclusively with Congressman Tulsi Gabbard, who is supporting Donald Trump in this election. I asked her directly, what does it mean? What does the Trump administration mean for Indian visa holders?
I would encourage Indian immigrants who are here in our country and contributing to our economy, starting businesses, innovating in technology, to not fall into the Kamala Harris trap of identity politics and vote based on ethnicity. I would encourage them to ask the Kamala Harris campaign or do their research. What has Kamala Harris, as someone whose mother immigrated from India, what has she done for Indian Americans today? What has she done for Indian immigrants here in our country? I know the short answer to that. The short answer to that is nothing. The same issues and challenges with green cards, with children, Indian immigrants who are here on green cards and who have kids who turn 18 and now are facing a situation where they don't have any access to legal status and an extremely broken legal immigration system. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have not done a single thing to address these very real and long-standing issues that the Indian American and Indian immigrant communities face here. President Trump has talked very openly about different ideas, such as, immigrants who come here and go to school should immediately be issued a green card when they graduate from university here, because it's in our best interest as a country to be able to retain the kind of talent and innovation and opportunity that many immigrants come here to seek, rather than providing people with skills and capabilities and then sending them back to their home country. President Trump has talked about recognizing the growth and the benefit that the United States and our economy gains from many immigrants from different parts of the world, but especially and including Indian immigrants. So I have no doubt that President Trump sees the opportunity here and will do all that he can in order to address these long-standing issues and fix what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have broken, especially with our illegal immigration system, which again is a slap in the face to many immigrants who stand in line, Indian immigrants especially, who stand in line, follow the rules, pay a lot of money just to work through this green card pipeline, only to see to their left and their right illegal immigrants coming into our country with no consequence, and essentially being promised by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that they will have a pathway to citizenship in a way that many Indian immigrants who have followed the rules don't see for themselves.
That was Tulsi Gabbard questioning what Biden and Harris administration has done for Indian visa holders and Indian immigrants who are living in the US. I also asked the same question to Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I asked her what it meant when Tulsi Gabbard said that Kamala Harris and President Biden have not done enough for immigration. And she responded by highlighting what President Trump could do if he returns back to the office.
Oh my gosh. Let me ask you why it is that Republicans continue to block comprehensive immigration reform. Going all the way back, not even going back 10 years, 2013, the U.S. Senate passed comprehensive reform with 68 bipartisan votes. The Speaker of the House was a Republican named John Boehner. And when it came to the House of Representatives, John Boehner refused to bring it to the floor for a vote because he knew it would pass. And Republicans have delighted in making immigrants their demon, demonizing xenophobia, racist language. And just recently, there was a bipartisan border bill, which I have some quabbles with, but a bipartisan border bill drafted by the third most conservative U.S. Senator in the United States Senate, a Republican. And they had agreement to pass it, but who told them not to? Donald Trump. And Donald Trump even said, I don't want to solve this problem. I want to keep immigration out there as an issue. So it is the Republicans who have blocked us, and we can only solve this if we actually have a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, and we solve it together. That is what has to happen. And it's an issue I've worked on for 20 years, so I'm very passionate about it. And I believe that Donald Trump is such a threat because he blames, demonizes immigrants at every turn instead of recognizing that we need to actually modernize an immigration system that is 30 years outdated.
As we've seen, immigration policy is not just about border. It is about economy, security, and at the very heart, what it means to be an American. In 2024, it could be the issue that decides the American presidency. As we get closer to the US election, we'll keep bringing more explainer videos for you to understand what is at stake in the race for the White House.